Hey folks, a number of you have asked me to create a video that shows me going through the logo design process. What I've done is I've gone back through my logo files and I've chosen a project which I think you'll find interesting. The client approached me with an existing logo design which they felt wasn't working for their brand and tasked me with the job of creating something new that would better reflect their business and the product that they were selling. The product in question were paintings and limited edition prints. So let's get in and I'll show you what I did. Okay folks, so here we are. Here is the logo that I was asked to refresh. Not so much a rebrand, the business name is staying the same, but the client had an issue that their logo wasn't really working for them. So I think we can all probably agree that looking at this logo, it's quite hard to make out what it says. Now it says Simply Jack Vettriano, and it's just very, very condensed. Far too condensed for my liking, and at the edge or the end of the word, the N, the I and the O are really kind of, it's quite complicated, and it just doesn't work. It's too hard at a glance. You want to be able to read a company's name at a glance quickly, and you can't do that with this. And so the client asked me to come up with another logo that they could use mainly on their website. They sell Jack Vettriano limited edition prints, and they wanted something for that. So having a quick look, in case you don't know, Jack Vettriano is a Scottish painter, and here's an example of some of his work. And as you can see, it's got quite a sort of a 1920s, 30s, sort of 40s, it's got that vintage look to the paintings. And based on that, I thought it would be quite nice to use a font which kind of harked back to that sort of era. So I had a look around and checked out some fonts that were sort of Art Deco in look, just to see how they were, and found quite a few. Kind of narrowed it down to 4, which I quite liked. I liked the circular O rather than the elongated stretched one. This third one here, wasn't a big fan of the O on the end there. It stands out too much. I wasn't a big fan of that. So what I did was I kind of narrowed it down to these 2 fonts here, and eventually decided to go with this second one. I liked the balance of the weight. I felt that the tracking between the letters was much better. If you look at this one above, the spacing between the E and the T's and the P and the L, the C and the A, it just wasn't quite right. Now I could go in and I could adjust the tracking, adjust the kerning between those letters, and to show you what I mean by that is I can, if I zoom in, and if you look at the E here, what I can do is I can highlight that and I can decrease the kerning, so you'll see that moving in and out. And so what I'd be looking at something like -75 to bring that T closer across next to that. And the same here with the L and the Y. I'd want to bring that closer, maybe -25 on there, just so that it kind of reads a bit better. And again, you've got the same sort of issue with the S and the I there. Take that down to sort of 25. And so what you're doing there is you're optically adjusting the kerning, the spaces between letters, so that it looks more natural to the eye when you're reading it. But I didn't want to really go in and I've done it there to show you how it works, but I just felt that this second font here, which is called Copacetic, just kind of worked for me, and so I decided this is the font that I was going to go with. Now we could have just stuck with that and gone with a word mark, just taking the font as it is typed out. I'm not a big fan of doing that. I do like to add something else in, whether it be a symbol or a shape, or do something with the letters just to give it a bit more of a uniqueness. Now, having looked at Jack Vettriano's paintings and done a bit of research on him, it turns out that this painting, called The Singing Butler, is one of his best-selling prints, and it's one of his most well-known prints, The Singing Butler. And I love it as well. I think it's a really great painting. It's just got a lot of kind of movement to it, and the sort of the maid struggling with the umbrella in the looks like it's quite a blustery day. The wind's blowing, and you've got the butler here with his umbrella as well. And I had a look through, and there are a few paintings actually which have umbrellas in them, and with this one being sort of the most famous one, I thought it'd be quite nice to bring that umbrella into the mix. And so what I did was I started to look at ideas of bringing the umbrella in. First of all, I thought top down to replace the O with the umbrella, and then maybe moving it around, maybe having it as a leading shape. But I didn't like the shape, it was too pointed. I wasn't a big fan of that. And so what I did was I decided to look at it side on, as it is in the painting, and started to look at the shape of it. And as I was doing it, I realized that the handle could potentially be a J. And so I kind of worked on that and took the J from the font and kind of placed it at the bottom. Now, it was a bit short, but I knew that I could play around with that J and make it, maybe stretch it a little bit to make it work more as a handle. And so what I did was I put inserted that in to the word mark, and just liked that idea from this. Just as soon as I did it, I thought that's got something about it. It brings in the story of the Singing Butler painting, which most people know him for, and it just adds a little bit of visual interest to the whole thing. And what I wanted to do was, the original logo, if you remember, was in a box, and I wanted to try out and see how it would look if I also put a border around this one, just to contain it. Because it's on the website, I just thought it'd be quite nice to have it in its own sort of container box. And so tried out a few things, and eventually worked my way to this version where the box actually, where the umbrella and the letter J, or the handle, sort of intersects the lines, and so the lines break, and it draws your attention a bit more to the umbrella there, and then the name contained inside that box. And I was really happy with that, and that's pretty much where I finished up with the logo for the client. Presented it to the client, and yeah, they were over the moon with it, and thought it was great. Obviously, what you have to do is you have to check that the logo will work on a dark background, so I did a secondary option in white with some tints of black here, just a sort of the light grey, and so you've still got that almost 3D element to the umbrella there, and it worked great. Now, another thing that you have to bear in mind is that this is quite a wide logo, quite a long horizontal logo, and when it comes to social media, you're going to want something which fits into sort of a square or a circle for your profile images. So one of the last things that I did was I just kind of worked up a couple of shapes for social media, which just shortened it down to SJV, so that the client could use that on things like Facebook and Twitter. And final here, just to show you the original. Now it's kind of, because that's zoomed in a little bit, I'll zoom out. So the original and then the replacement one from me. So I hope you guys think that the new one is better, and maybe fits the client's business a bit better, reflects on the artist, whereas the one above was difficult to read and didn't really have much of a link to the artist at all. But the new one I think does, and I think it fulfilled that. So this was sort of a logo refresh project. There wasn't a huge amount of research or a huge amount of sketching, which I would normally do for a brand identity project which is starting from scratch. This was a quicker project, and one which didn't really require the in-depth amount of detail and research that I would normally do. But I still think, you know, I did look into the artist, and I looked at other sort of gallery sites and did do sort of some due diligence and looked at everything that needed to be looked at, and as a result, you know, kind of came up with the umbrella idea as being quite a strong link to the artist. Well, there you are, folks. That was the process that I went through to rebrand Simply Jack Vettriano. In the future, I plan to do a video which will cover a brand identity project where there is no pre-existing logo design. And we'll go through the sketching, researching, concept stage, and the final build to the finalized logo design. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share this video with any friends or colleagues you think might find it useful. And until I see you next time, stay creative, folks.